I call this meeting to order. Will you stand and join with me? Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Chair Burton,
Present.
Commissioner Puppy,
Here.
Commissioner Ragsdale,
Here.
Commissioner Kupsick,
Here.
Vice Chair Damasio, Commissioner Bassler,
Here.
Commissioner Trupiano,
Here online.
Alternate Hester,
Here.
Alternate Manuel, Alternate Belshi, Alternate McDonald. We have Alternate Hester seated for District 4.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the September 23rd, 2025 Planning and Zoning Commission Workshop and regular meeting. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make the motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 3A, Jackson Place Manufactured Home Park, conditional use permit with site plan. Case number PLZU-25-0002. This is a public hearing and request that the commission approve a conditional use permit with site plan. This item was continued from the September 9th, 2025 Planning and Zoning Commission agenda. Tonight, we will obtain the presentation from Mr. Jarek Dunn.
Appreciate it. Good evening, chairs and members of the commission. Again, my name is Jarek Dunn, Planner 1 with the City of Buckeye, and I will be presenting tonight's item, which is the Jackson Place Conditional Use Permit with Site Plan, case number PLZU 25-0002 for your consideration. Applicants for this proposal are Mike Prefling, PE, and Sarah Gilbride from Prefling Engineering, LLC, on behalf of Hickman's Egg Ranch Incorporated, the property owner of the subject site. The site is approximately 0.3 acres and is located at the northwest corner of Jackson Avenue and South 2nd Street. The request is for a conditional use permit with site plan to allow for future construction of an 8-park model unit manufactured home park. The model units will be market rate, long-term lease housing available to the general public. So some site context. The subject property is currently vacant. The property to the north of the subject site is the Broadbent Powers Levitt office building. The properties to the south consist of single-family residences, while the property to the east is the parking lot for the Broadbent Powers Levitt office building, and the property to the west is a recreational vehicle park. Into some of the general plan land use designations. The general plan land use designation for the subject property is activity center. Activity centers denote live, work, play areas that are vibrant mixed-use areas, providing destination locations, which downtown is. Downtown Buckeye Specific Area Plan, also known as the DSAP, was developed for the historic Downtown Buckeye Activity Center and refined land uses and planning concepts with intent to create a regional destination to capitalize on the historical and cultural assets available in the area. The proposed use is consistent with the vision of the DSAP through the following goals and strategies. Goal DA.7, cater to diverse needs by ensuring a variety of residential product types are developed throughout downtown. And strategy DA-7.2, Buckeye Development Code should provide opportunities for a mixture of detached, attached, and multifamily housing options, and varying densities to ensure it meets the needs of all downtown residents. Furthermore, the downtown core land use designation category emphasizes pedestrian activity where one can park once and walk everywhere in downtown with relative ease, which this project achieves. Going into some of the zoning. The subject property is zoned mixed residential. The properties to the north are zoned commercial center. The properties to the south, east, and west are zoned mixed residential. And the property's existing mixed residential zoning district does permit the use of a manufactured home park, but only through a conditional use permit. The proposed residential use does meet the intent of the mixed residential zoning district, as the mixed residential zoning district is designed to accommodate both single and multifamily residential developments. On the screen, I have the proposed site plan. So the site plan places the main access point from Jackson Avenue, and residents will utilize 10 new 90-degree on-street parking to be constructed by the developer on Jackson Avenue. The site features a private aisle to be constructed of decorative open cell pavers to allow access to the homes during move-in periods and for deliveries, but is not intended for vehicle parking. Residential solid waste collection will be provided by the city. A concrete pad for container placement is planned adjacent to Jackson Avenue, west of the Spine driveway. Each dwelling unit will be assigned a standard residential bin, which residents will transport to the pad on designated collection days. Go into the proposed landscape and wall plan. For a small development of this type, the proposed site plan provides for significant landscaping and usable space. The proposal includes a synthetic lawn and shaded barbecue area along the frontage, which adds vibrancy to the area and encourages residents to engage with the street-level environment of downtown Buckeye. The proposed design provides for pathways that will provide easy access to the Jackson Avenue sidewalk, encouraging residents to walk to storefronts along Monroe Avenue to the north and Earl Egger Park to the south. Proposed elevations and site details. With regard to the architectural design, the applicant has agreed to provide 8 park model units that feature 9-foot flat ceilings throughout, square front pop-out front-end elevations, and hardwood raised panel cabinet doors. The proposed park model units feature more architectural detailing and design interests than most similar homes, with a traditional style befitting of the site's location downtown. Each park model unit will be 399 square feet in size. In addition, each park model unit will have a detached 100 square foot storage shed, also featuring enhanced detailing to complement the design of the homes themselves. Public participation. All notification and public participation has been met and shown here and in the staff report. There were no members of the public present at the neighborhood meeting, and the applicant and staff have received 1 public comment to date. A member of the public wanted to know more information about the circulation and size of the park model units, which staff provided. At the previous Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing on September 9th, one resident expressed reservations about the project. On October 1st, 2025, staff met with the resident and his business partner to discuss concerns regarding the project. The resident and his business partner expressed safety concerns for their employees based on the belief that the homes would house individuals participating in Hickman's Eggs reentry program for formerly incarcerated individuals. While this was initially presented to staff as a potential use, Hickman's Eggs has since revised its plans. According to the applicant's narrative, the homes will be offered as market rate long-term rentals available to the general public. While the outreach efforts and subsequent revisions have addressed the primary concern by the resident, they continue to have reservations about the project relating to the safety of their employees. Key findings. The conditional use permit application was reviewed for consistency with governing documents. It was found that this use is in compliance with the General Plan Activity Center land use, as it would support new infill residential development that has the character, size, density, and quality that respects the existing neighborhood character. It maintains the quality of life for existing and future residents. A manufactured home park is permitted in MR zoning with a conditional use permit. The associated site plan also shows that the height, setbacks, and design meet development code standards and are consistent with the character of the area. The use is not anticipated to disrupt the surrounding neighborhood and there are no outstanding issues for reviewing departments. The recommendation. Based on these findings, staff recommends to conduct a public hearing and approval of case number PLZU-25-0002, Jackson Place Conditional Use Permit with Site Plan, subject to conditions A through I. Staff is available for questions at this time.
Thank you, Jarek. Start with the commissioners. Ms. Puppy, do you have any questions?
I don't think I have any questions since this came across us in September. I think it's a beautiful project, and I can tell you've done a lot of work on it. Wonderful presentation, Mr. Dunn. Thank you.
Ms. Ragsdale?
It looks good to me. No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cupsack?
No questions. Thank you, Jarek.
Mr. Hester?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bassler?
No questions, you're a good presenter.
Sebastian?
Yes, I just got one question. With the change from being Hickman's employees to general public, who's going to take care of the maintenance of the property?
Commissioner, that would still be the owner of the property, Hickman Eggs. They're just not restricting the availability to strictly employees. So it would still be the property owner maintaining the property.
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. At this time, I will open up a public hearing. Mr. J. Broadbent, will you step to the podium, please? Recite your name as well as your address, please, for the record.
Jay Broadbent, Broadbent Levant Building, 111 East Monroe, Buckeye, Arizona. I've met with Glenn Hickman and Doc Ezell. We had a good conversation. Eric has referred to a couple of the stipulations that this would not be a project for Hickman's reentry program. I don't know if it's in writing or not. Also said it would be marketplace. That is stated. Is it in writing? Is it something they actually agreed to in writing? I don't know. They indicated that if the project was successful, they would attempt to purchase the property to the west and rehabilitate that, which would be a great thing. But our concern is, obviously, we would like to see another use, but this is a use that's been presented. My biggest concern is the city, and somebody's really, somebody has bad information or somebody's not telling the truth. Property's not owned by Hickman Eggs, according to Glenn Hickman and Doc Ezell. It is owned by Glenn Hickman, 49%, and Doc Ezell at 51%. So we have a discrepancy on what is being presented and what is truth. And I don't know what is what. I did not do the research. So if they follow through with what the project is and they follow through with what they've agreed to, we can move forward. The number one tenant and owner of Woodruff Levitt Insurance, we had a meeting with both Ken and Jarek, and tried to meet his concerns. His biggest concerns are the safety of the employees and if it was a reentry project for Hickman Eggs. So I would strongly insist that this is in writing and that if they violate it, that we pull the permit altogether. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Broadbent. Madam Secretary, are there any other persons wishing to speak?
Sure.
Thank you. Then I will close this public hearing. Mr. Kalika or Ms. Henry, could you speak to the fact of the rentals? I mean, once it's approved, anyone can live in those places. Am I correct or not?
Yes, Chair. We are bound, as everybody in this country is bound by the Fair Housing Act. So we are limited in our, I don't want to say limited, we are prohibited in our ability to restrict renters, so long as they're, certainly complying with whatever laws are out there. So, folks that have a criminal background, I guess, as long as they've been legally released from the corrections system and have a right to live, they would be able to, rent these units like anybody else. I will say the owner has put in writing the commitments that Mr. Broadbent mentioned. That said, for the reasons related to the Fair Housing Act, we wouldn't be able to enforce them. So it's a bit of a promise that we have to maybe take the word for if that's the direction.
But I guess the point that I'm pressing is that it's like any other apartment complex or rental. Correct. I mean, you could have a background and still possibly get an apartment if it's okay by the landlord.
A house, you can, yes, yes.
Thank you. Commission, I will ask you if you have any questions or comments before we put this thing to a vote. All right, I'd like to, may I have a motion?
I would like the motion. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we approve PLZU-25-0002, subject to conditions A through I.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Great job. All right. Agenda item for a presentation by Mr. Terry Lowe, Water Resource Department Director, on the city's present water situation and what trends are expected in the years ahead. Mr. Lowe.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Thank you, Ken, for setting this up. Very brief presentation tonight. By all means, interrupt me if there's any questions. What the chair went into just a little is beyond the scope of what I've got presented, but be happy to answer any questions. Partner in crime, Bobby Anastasov, sitting behind me, much smarter than I am, so I'm just the pretty face. But I'll speak, and then when I need a question answered, I'll turn to him. But thank you very much for having us here tonight. I have not had the pleasure of presenting before the commission before. So tonight, I think when Ken had asked us to come talk to you, I think there were some concerns about what goes on behind the scenes as it relates to water before it is presented before the commission. And so we're going to just talk a little bit about that. There's two major buckets of development that take different tracks as it relates to getting and securing water for their development. Residential, a little more formal tract, it involves the state. Commercial, a little less formal tract, puts a little more responsibility on the city to ensure that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. And then talk a little bit about the role of the department in development. So from the residential side of things, residential development, a lot of onus is on the developer to sure that they've got their 100-year assured water supply. They've got to do quite a bit of work, and then seek a certificate of assured water supply from the Arizona Department of Water Resources, all before things come to you or even come to us in development. They've got to show proof of ownership. They've got to prove physical availability of water in the ground, as Buckeye is a groundwater utility. They hire a hydrogeologist that does a whole lot of modeling, submits that to the state. The state then compares that to the modeling that they've been tracking and been doing for some time. And then after a lot of back and forth, certificates are being issued. Then they'll come to the city. The certificates are required for plats that will be presented to you, but even before that, they'll come to us and say, okay, how do I get in with the city? What is necessary? Are they going to build? Many cases, master plans that type of build their infrastructure necessary for their customers. But in other cases, they'll buy into the system. They'll then take that capital and build it. Most times, they build the infrastructure, connect to our system, expand our system, and then turn those assets over to the city. And then, again, all of that goes on behind the scenes. Everything's ready for the plat, and that'll come before you. For us, we require some additional information from the development for them to tell us how much water they're going to use. I talk about water here, but also on the wastewater side of things, they're responsible for one, telling us how much they're going to use, and then also building and or expanding the infrastructure to treat the wastewater as well as a water quality report. Buckeye, we've got an interesting makeup of water beneath our feet in certain parts of Buckeye. It can be pretty brackish, and so we've got to talk about how that, if we're going to deploy that type of water, that's got to be treated a little bit differently. So far, we've been able to work with developments to find water sources elsewhere. Under my tenure prior to that, and years gone by, that hasn't been the case. Doing our best to sort of meld the new with the old when it comes to ensuring the quality of water that we see. Any questions?
Mr. Lowe, how do we get so far off with regard to water? I mean, it really hasn't changed over the years. I mean,
yeah, what has transpired in the last couple of years is a little bit unprecedented in a sense that it's not that much has changed, it's just the forecasting that has been done. The state's role is to monitor and ensure availability of water. Their modeling, I mean, they're looking out 100 years. And what has transpired starting in 2023 was they looked out 100 years and said, oh golly, we got a problem, in a sense that there's going to be a deficit. Not a deficit in the sense that we're going to impact those that are currently tied into the system collecting water right now. It's those future projections and those forecasts. All of the development, I'll use Buckeye as a huge example because we got tons of development that is known. They come to planning and they say, hey, I've got 30,000 acres, I'm going to put so many homes on here. They've been talking with the state for a long time. The state knows these projections, even though they haven't sunk a well into the ground. And so they take all of that unbuilt demand that hasn't been built yet, put it in with what is being built and what currently is being delivered, water is delivered, put it all together and forecast out. And what happens is got a deficit in the 100 years. And so the intent is not to stop all development, although that's what has transpired in the last couple of years, but it is to take a pause and say, okay, we've got to think about things a little bit differently, maybe look at either further technology to use water more wisely, or to adjust our planning type of setups and landscaping approaches and those types of things, and then run the models again. And so typical of how a lot of things have worked out in Arizona. I mean, 1980 was the last time where they said, okay, we got to stop doing some stuff because we're seeing not so good things happening to the groundwater supply. New laws came into place and then both picked up again. It changed in a sense that it went from, the water use went from agriculture to more development and housing. But that's kind of where we're at, and that's kind of how we look at it. It's a matter of time, think a little bit differently. How can we get more water from the same drop, or more use on the same drop of water? Then, commercial development. This one is, again, this is a little less restrictive when it comes to a state side of things. The way the Arizona, the Groundwater Management Act that came about in 1980, really was looking at, it saw the growth at the time prior to and up to that point was a lot of residential development. And so it really looked to regulate and ensure that homes had water designated to the parcel of land for 100 years. And the Groundwater Management Act was actually more of a consumer protection law than it was a conservation law. Because unfortunately, 10, 12, 15, 20 years prior to that, there had been a lot of land fraud going on, and homes were sold without water to go with it. 1980 comes about, says, hey, we're going to ensure that the homes that we own have a certain amount of water supply associated with it, as well as the same time had that effect that we're gonna look to utilize groundwater a little more wisely, in a sense that groundwater may be the source of the water, but it won't be the supply of the water. Designation, cities become designated. They still may pump groundwater, but they use another supply of water, river water, whether it be in-state, Colorado River, other supplies, and put it back in the ground. So in a sense, the ground is still left at a net zero. No reduction in the City of Buckeye is not that way. City of Buckeye is still a certificated city. We're non-designated. But that same process is still occurring. Development gets the certificates. Certificates say there's groundwater available. That's important for us because we can then mine the water, deliver it to everybody as our customers. And then as the homeowners, if you look at your tax bill, you'll see a CAGRD, Central Arizona Groundwater Replenishment District, and there's a tax associated with that. That money that's collected by the CAGRD is then used to put that water back in the ground to offset the pumping for residential. Commercial doesn't have that same requirement. There's not a replenishment requirement associated with commercial under the current situation that sits with Buckeye. If we're a designated community, which most of the Valley cities are, everything has a replenishment requirement. We're growing, not just in our size and everything, but the city is growing in its purposefulness of what it means to manage water, and so designation is something that the city is looking at, in whole or in part, but in due time, because as times are right now, the cost of water is extreme. Availability of it is not so much, and so we're to balance that, because in the end, somebody's got to pay for it, and usually that's the rate. We're taking measured steps and scalable steps. So when we talk about commercial development, if a business comes in, a development, or, whether it's a logistics center or a shopping center or something along those lines, they'll come to us. We're not necessarily required to get a cause. I say in most cases here because if they were to have a large piece of land and they subdivide that land, if they subdivide it so many times, or the size of those subdivisions are of certain size, it does trigger a statute that would require them to get a certificate. Have not seen that come into existence here in Buckeye, but there is a law in the books. It sits in the real estate statute, not in the water statute. But most instances, commercial doesn't require a certificate. So, moving beyond that, the development would then come talk to the city after they'll talk to planning and try to understand, what are my zoning issues and what are those types of things. And they're required to provide us their anticipated water demands, their sewer demands, how much they plan on flushing, that type of thing. We'll let them know what their impact to the system is. In many cases, They won't build, that's just not what they do. They'll pay impact fees, we'll collect that, and we'll and the system on their behalf at such time that the system is calling for it. They also need to do they need to get, if they do construct, they need to get well waivers from neighboring wells so that they're not impacting any neighboring wells. If they pay us, we'll go take care of that. But if they do that, they have to double check that. We also take that demand information from them, and we do the similar legwork that residential development does, and that we go and look at the state's models to see how these withdrawals would affect groundwater and the modeling that has been forecasted. Those models are updated periodically, and we just stay up to that, make a comparison. Most commercial development in Buckeye so far is really not a high water user. You're talking about logistics centers. So there's usually not a lot of impact that we've seen. But we do that. We make sure that what is the data that's out there that is used by the water professionals at the state level, that we're just making sure that we're not going to be impacting our future ability by impacting the aquifer. Any questions there? And then finally, again, our role, I think I probably went through that as I was talking, our role from a residential development versus a commercial development. We've got I wouldn't say it's risk shifts to us, but certainly a little more work shifts over to the city for commercial development than when we're talking with residential development, because they have such a longer runway of work to do before they even come to the city. So with that, I would be happy, or Bobby would be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Bassler?
From what I've heard from you, by the time this committee receives a proposal, you have given a stamp of approval that there is adequate water for the project that has come before us.
I'd say in many cases that is the case. Others where maybe we have not come to an agreement with the development, we'll issue is usually what we call something called a will serve letter, that we'll serve it, we'll serve you, but you got to do X, Y, and Z. So they can continue along the process of entitlements, zoning, those types of things, but they certainly will not be able to connect until quite a few steps and money has to transact. But in many cases, we've already seen a lot of it. We know what's going on, and so we've given an okay to keep on moving.
Okay. I met with you and I was concerned about the amount of apartment buildings that were going up in regards to residential. You were very good at explaining that residential or apartments only use what comes into the apartment and not all the landscaping around it. That prompted me to take a look at my water usage, and I found out that my landscaping takes most of my water usage. So I just verified what you said, and that the apartment complex, you can recover most of the water that goes into that. So that was very helpful information from my standpoint to hear that.
Great, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Astor.
No questions this time, thank you.
Ms. Kupczak?
Hi, Terry.
Hello.
What does the city have to do to be able to issue our own cause?
Well, we wouldn't formally be in that cause boat, but let's say we were designated. We were in a designated type of situation. That means that we've got a portfolio of water that would be available for use. What we would have to do is we have policies that we're drafting right now for council to look at how do we dole those things out? Is it first come, first serve? Is it someone with the biggest check? Do we do things on a, like an auction basis? We wouldn't go that route, but what would be the approach to be able to make sure that the development and the growth that we looking for gets the water that they need? In many cases, there's never enough. So it comes down to where the development would be responsible for bringing in the water. Now, we coined that term some time ago of bringing the water, meaning they had to mine the water. In this instance, we're talking about the right to a renewable supply to offset what we pump out of it. And so that's where, if a development has that already, or if a developer has that, they came to the table and say, look, I'm building this 1 million square foot building, and I've got 1,000 acre feet of water to my name. It's going to cover my stuff. I'm going to hand it over to you. You come on down. And so therefore, you know, they're in like Flynn. But without it, you know, it really comes down to, we have to have a further conversation with the developer with the understanding that, you know, the costs are going up. And so understand that you're going to need to bring water because the city just doesn't have enough to either go around, and if we put it in such that we parse it out to so much water for so many acres, that type of thing, there still wouldn't be enough associated with it. So it becomes a relationship in that respect. I give a little here that the developments has to do their own.
Thank you. One more question. How does our waterlog status affect us at all with all of this? Do they even care that we're, part of our city's drowning and so?
Yes, and so the waterlog is an interesting case. In that modeling I mentioned before, the model showed that actually the waterlog area, it's not just in Buckeye, but it extends, you know, further east, that actually they're seeing that the waterlogged area is waning on the east. And there's some schools of thought. I'm not a hydrogeologist, so I can't argue this point too much, but it all depends on the factors that are associated with it, and you can get some modeling to say otherwise. And as well as when you look at, everything's a snapshot in time, so when you look at how the demands are right now, that's not to say that if we were to forecast out less demand, meaning say, look, development, your use is too high, you got to find some way to cut that use, run the model again, then what does it look like? But in the meantime, we do have it's a fabulous waterlogged area. The challenge is that it's not a very good quality water, and so from a drinking water standpoint, it's difficult because the cost to bring it to drinking water standard, or at least cost to put it to not necessarily a safety standard, we can treat for that. The brackishness of it, put it to something where people would want to drink it, that gets costly. For high levels of TDS, that gets pretty costly, and so we've been avoiding that, calling those types of treatment because of the cost, and then what does it mean for our ratepayers? As we grow bigger and our customer base grows, that impacts each individual customer less, and we'll be able to deploy those resources. Hope that helped.
Yeah, and I will preface this next statement as I'm not a hydrologist either, and I'm not even close to being as smart as you are, but we've pumped thousands of acre feet of water down the Gila since 1980. Mm-hmm. But we've got and that water goes down the river, and then it percolates down, and it kind of cleans itself by the time it gets into somebody else's aquifer. But yet we've gotten no credit for that, and I think that's not very fair, but that's just my
we did make the rules, unfortunately.
feeble way of but anyway, thank you.
Ms. Ragsdale.
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Puppy.
Good evening, Mr. Lowe. I just had one question to go back to the residential assured water supply for 100 years for development. I was just curious, is that just subdivision developers, or is that for anybody that buys a plot of land or, let's say I buy 4 acres and I want to put a house on it. Do I have to go through that process?
No, because you're not subdividing.
Okay. Thank you.
Sebastian?
Yeah, I got a question in regards to some recent news about EPCOR and them getting a 100-year certification for 60,000 homes. How's that impact Buckeye?
Well, yeah, EBCOR recently did get their designation under the alternative designation of assured water supply, which is one of those tools the state put out to allow utilities, public or private, to continue to move forward with growth. It doesn't affect Buckeye very much because EBCOR only serves a portion of Buckeye, pretty much the Verrado area, and the Verrado area, as I understand it, I can't say for certain, Ken, maybe you know, but I believe most of the Verrado development has its certificates already. They were issued many years ago. Do you have any parcels that are still?
I don't, but we can follow up with that information if needed, yeah.
But so if they've got their certificates that were issued years ago, they can continue to move forward and develop. The fact that EBCOR became designated, that bucket of water that was designated for Verrado becomes part of EBCOR's designation, and I would gather that EBCOR is not going to not allow them to develop. They'll continue moving forward to develop. But like I said, I think it has very little impact. Good chunk of EBCOR's area is still farmland in the MWD district, farming district over there. So that helps in that area.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, because there's a lot of area that is part of the Buckeye Planning area that's to the east of Verrado and in north that would probably be covered by EPCOR and wouldn't be part of Buckeye, correct? The Buckeye water system?
None of that is Buckeye water. There is some that is EBCOR. Arizona Water Company has a good tract of part of their CCNN runs up that way, and I even believe Liberty has a finger of their CCNN that moves into that area. So it's kind of a patchwork of water utilities in there, and none of which are the city. From a water standpoint, we do our wastewater service territory does extend up into that outside of Verrado.
And does the water that those companies use, does that come from the same aquifer as Buckeye?
There's two ways to look at it. When the 1980 Groundwater Management Act came into play, it designated the Phoenix Basin as the AMA as one big basin, but you could divide that up into smaller sub-basins, and so no, I would say some of that is a separate aquifer than where we are, but there's some really cool modeling out there that sort of shows how the water underground spills from one underground bucket to another underground bucket, and so they're of a higher elevation than we are, so it's you can look at it as the same aquifer, but it's a different sub-basin.
Okay, cool. I just was curious about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian. And no, I don't have any questions. Thank you, Ms. Kupczak. Mr. Lowe, thank you very much for your presentation. Awesome presentation. Thank you. You can come back anytime.
Will do. I'll send Bobby. We're good. Thank you, everybody.
You and John Willett have carte blanche. All right. This brings us to agenda item number 4. Oh, we already did that. Yeah. Item number 5, comments from the public. Nothing? Thank you. The next is the planning manager report and summary of current events. Mr. Ken Galika.
Good evening, Chair. Thank you for another good meeting, and thanks to Terry and Bobby for coming tonight. We're going to do something similar at the next meeting with John Will it be you, John? Or are you going to sublet that out somewhere? Traffic will be presenting informationally, not on any particular topic that you need to vote on. So part of our continuing lecture series, I'll call it. We also, I think, have 1 or 2 items on that agenda as well. So plan on that. I know I think it's November 11th meeting is canceled this year due to Veterans Day. So you'll have only 1 meeting in November. That's, one other thing I do want to say. I did have a chance to attend the Taste of Buckeye event that was put on by the Chamber this past, was it last week? No, it was 2 weeks ago. And it was fantastic. Really well organized event, a lot of good time had by all, and it was nice to see even some of the new restaurants in the city participating in that. So that was my first chance to try some of them, actually. So really good. Thanks.
Thank you. Planning and Zoning Commission summary of current events. Ms. Puppy,
I have nothing to report right now, sir. Thank you.
thank you.
I have nothing, thank you.
Thank you.
We have a little bit of things going on this week. Tomorrow, we have our quarterly breakfast with the Secretary of State. We'll be in Buckeye at Westmeck. And then Friday is Buckeye Rocks, our Community Awards dinner, and at the Equestrian Center. And then some of us on this dais will just be spending the night there because at 6 o'clock the next morning, we will start loading in vendors for sangria and shopping that happens on Saturday. So that's what your chamber is doing this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cupsack.
I have nothing, thank you.
Ms. Bachelor. Nothing. Ms. Hernandez, never mind.
Man.
Sebastian.
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian. And with that being said, this meeting is adjourned.